afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us on this webinar to kind of understand how to become a UK property landlord from Singapore. My name is Chris Inquilden. I am the sales director here at Joseph Mews, and I'm being joined with Sophia Kazmi today from Maidwell Group, who is going to be discussing financing your investment from overseas. Sophia is a friend of the business and someone that we've worked with for a long time. So it's really good to kind of get her input on all of this as well. So it's gonna be broken up a little bit, this webinar. We're going to talk a little bit about who we are as a business and how we've helped people over the years. We're going to talk a little bit about the UK property market, and then Sophia is going to take over and talk about financing your investment from overseas. And then we're going to talk about a brand new opportunity that we have in Birmingham, which is one of the most exciting opportunities that we've ever been involved in as a business. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it educational. And yeah, without further ado, let's crack on and get started. So a little bit about us. We were founded in 2001 by this man that you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, Mr. Andy Foote. Andy is a prolific property investor himself. He started from a very young age, and he's built up a substantial portfolio of buy-to-lets in the UK. One thing that he realized when he started his investment journey was that he was pretty dissatisfied with the kind of customer service element of it. And off the back of that, Andy started a company which aimed to kind of improve this customer service side of things and make it easier for the consumer to make the whole investment journey and buying journey that little bit better. So off the back of that, Andy started a company called Seven Capital Group. Seven Capital are now one of the biggest property developers in the UK. And what Andy was doing was heading up the kind of sales and distribution arm of the business, where we had multiple teams dotted all over the world, and they delivered a huge amount of value to clients over that time, and helped over 2,500 clients as well, build wealth through property. So incredibly successful in that time. And then a few years ago, we decided to rebrand to Joseph Mews Property Group. And the reason why we did that is because we wanted to work with other developers like Seven Capital, to give our clients more options in terms of price point, in terms of location, in terms of the different developers that we work with. So it's proved to be it's worked very well for us, and giving these our clients different options has proved to work really well with our clients and our database. So that's who we are, and it's a little bit about us. If we move on to the next slide. Obviously, when you're looking at investing overseas, we understand that can be quite a daunting process. It's kind of going into the unknown a little bit, I guess. And it's important to understand who you're working with and feeling comfortable with the company that's kind of going to guide you through this process. So if we look at our performance and our track record in numbers, we have marketed and sold over 4,200 units. We've been involved in 43 different developments, and we have helped deliver over £630 million worth of gross development value to our clients as well. And we've had 28% repeat purchases as well, and that's something that we hold in quite high regard. We like to work with our clients, not just buying one property, but we help them build up portfolios over the years, and repeat business is something that we kind of thrive on as a business. So we're very proud of these numbers that you see in front of us, and they're only going to get bigger. So if we move on to the next slide, kind of coincides with what I'm talking about here. Obviously, you need to trust us as a business and what we do and how we're going to help you. But obviously, understanding who we work with as a business as well over on the ground in the UK is very, very important. So one thing about us is that we are we work exclusively with all of our developers that we work in. That's something quite unique about our business. We don't team up with other companies and our competitors to sell what they're selling. We only sell individual developments with exclusive relationships with our developers. So a lot of these names that you see on the screen might not, you might not know who they are. Most of them are developers. They're very high quality developers. But you might notice that the two on the right-hand side of the screen, top-hand right-hand side, JLL and Knight Frank. These are two of the biggest property consultants in the world. Knight Frank in particular, we work with their Midlands team, and we are exclusive partners with them, exclusive overseas partners with them. So any development that they work on in the Midlands, in Birmingham area, Derby, whatever it may be, we have exclusivity with those developers, and with Knight Frank and the people that they work with, they're some of the most high profile developers in the whole of the UK. So it's testament to us as a business that we've been able to build these relationships, and it just gives you an idea of the quality of people that we work with over in the UK. Next slide, please. So this slide is very important. It's the customer journey, and again, I reiterate the point of it. It's a daunting process buying overseas. I mean, look, a lot of our clients have never been to the UK. You don't necessarily need to know or have any association with the UK. Everything can be done remotely, and as I said, it's the way that we can do that is by giving you a customer journey, which is in a lot of depth and a lot of detail, and kind of hold your hand through the whole process. It's what the business was built out of. And as I said, going back to Andy and why he started the business, it was all because of the customer service element of it all. And that's one thing that we do very well here at Joseph Mews, and what we pride ourselves on is this customer journey. So whether that's finding you the right investment, it's in putting you in touch with someone like Sophia, our mortgage broker, who will do the whole mortgage side of things for you. Putting you in touch with the right lawyers. We've got a panel of lawyers that we work with every investment opportunity that we have. So putting you in touch with them, they'll take you through the legal process. We've got a customer care team that will be in constant communication with you throughout this whole process. A lot of what we do here is off-plan investment. So you're buying an investment that is not yet completed, but it will be in 6, 8, 12 months. So during that build process, we are in consistent communication throughout the process. And then when we get to the kind of tail end of the process, where you're looking at actually completing the property, and the kind of cornerstone of every investment is who's going to be renting my property. We have relationships with some of the best letting and management agents in all the locations that we work with, and we would introduce you to them. They would take the key off the developer. They will find you a tenant. They will rent it out for you, and they will manage the whole property for you as well. So in certain locations as well, we have really good discounts with these letting and management fees. Normally across the UK, it's 12-14% letting and management fee. In some of our developments, we're getting 7 or 8%. So there's a big saving there as well. And again, it's because of the relationships that we've built up over the time. So yeah, look, that's the customer service journey. And look, Joseph Mews, yes, we are introducing you to people throughout this journey. But us as a company, we're with you every step of the way as well. Not just when you complete. It's not one of those situations where we say, look, good luck and goodbye. We are with you, 5-10 years down the line as well. As I said, we rely on repeat business. Lots of people come back to us and build their portfolios through us. So as I said, we're with you every step of the way as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, please feel free to drop all questions that you have in the Q&A box. Sophia and I will get to them at the end of the webinar, and we will answer them as best we can. All right. So why invest in the UK? And a little bit about the current UK property market. It's what I always say to clients is you need to understand what you're trying to achieve, not just with the UK, but in any market that you invest in, okay? And the UK has got its own unique reasons why to invest in it, but it's the most invested and oldest property market in the world. And the reason for that is because it's got because of its safety, because of its stability. Okay, um, you know, it is a mid to long term strategy. You've got to understand that you're not going to be doubling your money in 2 or 3 years' time. It's not how it works. It is that mid to long term strategy. Realistically, we see the returns that we want after, well, between 5, 10, 15 years. Okay. Traditionally, every 10 years, property values in the UK, they double. If you're investing in the right location, maybe it'll be quicker than that. But you can see from this graph that over the past 80 years, property values have continued to rise. And, you know, regardless of world events or economic downturns or whatever you may see, the UK property market has stayed strong. Okay, and that is what you're investing in. It's that safety element. You know, if we compare this to Dubai, you know, I'm based in Dubai, for example. You know, I know the market out here very well. There's a lot of media hype around it. Yes, it's proved to be very, very good in the last 5 years. It's made people a lot of money very quickly. But it's a young market. It's been around for only 15 years. I'd say for half of that time, it's been very, very volatile. At the moment, it's starting to get a little bit more stable. But then again, I don't know where it's going. I don't know where Dubai will be in 5 years. It's an unpredictable market. It's volatile. Maybe it's going to keep going at the rate it is. Maybe it's going to drop off a cliff. I just don't know. And that's not what we have with the UK. The UK, we know where property values are going to be. We know what your return on your investment is going to be over a certain amount of time, depending on which location that you're investing in. Okay, so that's the great thing about the UK property market, and it's just understanding what you're looking to achieve. Okay, and the reason why we know where values are going to be is because of supply and demand. And if we go on to the next slide, please. So supply and demand is one of many reasons, but I'd say one of the biggest reasons why property values in the UK are going to continue to rise. We have an undersupply for the amount of demand that we have for residential property in the UK. That's due to many reasons, you know, planning restrictions. You can't build high. You know, there's build costs have gone up quite considerably in the last 5 years since COVID. I used to work for a developer, so I've seen this firsthand. So there's less being built, which is not helping us in terms of trying to hit our housing targets, you know, which is always set by the government. We very rarely hit housing targets, and it's because of many factors, you know, a couple of what I've just mentioned. So this isn't going to change. You know, the supply and demand is always going to be a problem in the UK. And that's that's the reason why we're going to see property values increase and continually increase, because we're just never going to have the supply that we need in comparison to the demand. And if we go on to the next slide, where we're going to talk about a little bit about the actual rental markets. You know, there's at the moment the UK is a renting generation. You know, people can't afford to buy houses like they could 10, 15, 20 years ago. So people are now renting, and again, that's great from an investor perspective because yields are really high, tenant demand is very high, and as you can see here, you know, the average home now has 25 tenants wanting to view, which is crazy. You know, I'm going to lean on my own experience here. I bought a property in the UK. I put it on the market to rent it out. Within the first day, I had 8 people wanting to view. Within the second day, I had 4 offers. And then I had it all wrapped up with a tenant of my choice within 2 days of putting it on the market. So that's just an example of the kind of demand that we have in the UK at the moment. And again, why it's that kind of safe place to invest. Again, I'm going to lean on Dubai here. There's already a massive oversupply. There's another 3,000 units that are going to be released into the market over the next couple of years. So that's what makes me nervous about that kind of market compared to the UK, because that's just not going to happen in the UK. If we go on to the next slide. So look, we again, there's a bit more data here that we've got, which shows that warehouse prices are planning, or where they're expected to go. You know, this graph on the right, Knight Frank, JLL, Savills, some of the biggest property consultants in the world are predicting that property prices are going to continue to rise over the next 5 years, which is exactly what we want to see. So yeah, look, that's a little bit about the property market in the UK, and just a little bit about why it's a great place to invest. I think we're now going to go on to, if we go on to the next slide, yeah, we're going to pass you over to Sophia, who is going to talk about financing your property investment from Singapore. Over to you, Soph.
Thank you very much, Chris. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. So Chris has walked you through the UK property market and why invest in the UK. Now, before we go into some of the investments that we're going to be looking at with you this afternoon, we're just going to walk you through how yourselves as investors from Singapore can obtain a mortgage in the UK. And the important thing to highlight is without having the need to go to the UK or travel to the UK at all. This can all be done remotely from where you are located globally. Next slide, please. So just to start off with, just to give you a bit of a background on myself, firstly, before we go into why leverage and why take advantage of a mortgage. So we are an international mortgage brokerage. We are headquartered in Dubai, and our focus is international clients located outside of the UK who are looking at investing and securing mortgages for the UK investment properties. So we're very familiar with the banks that have an appetite to lend to yourselves as overseas investors, and the process from start to finish, the journey, what it looks like, what documentation you require. And as a result, we're very familiar with kind of the common challenges that can sometimes come up and how we can go about tackling those before they do arise. So we're very familiar with it, and as a result, we've been working with international clients for a number of years. Now, we often have clients who come to us all across the globe and are not aware that they're able to obtain a mortgage from overseas, and secondly, are not aware of the benefits of leveraging. So we like to go through this short, well, very, very brief, if you were, example of how one can leverage and how one can grow a property portfolio. So the top row, firstly, just is based on a purchase price of £200,000. Now, let's assume that you were to purchase a property in cash for £200,000 and hold on to it for 10 years. Now, 10 years later, let's say that you sell the property for £300,000. You made an investment of £200,000. You made a profit of £100,000, and that equates to a 50% profit. Now, if we go back and let's say, as opposed to purchasing that property in cash, you put down a £50,000 deposit and you borrowed £150,000 from the bank, also known as a 75% loan to value mortgage, whereby the bank give you 75% and then you put down the remaining 25%. 10 years later, again, you sell the property for £300,000. You made an investment of £50,000. That was the deposit that you put down. Your profit still equates to £100,000. However, as a percentage, that's now a 200% profit on your initial investment. Next slide, please. So if we look at the next slide, you'll see that the £200,000 that you could have put into one property, you could instead put that in 4 properties. If you wanted to allocate for £200,000, you could put that in 4 properties, borrowing £600,000 to the bank and equating to a total portfolio value of £800,000. Now, 10 years later, each of those properties are worth £300,000. If you sell them, your investment was £200,000. Your profit is £400,000, and that equates to a 200% profit on your initial investment. However, the other thing that you can do is you can look at capital raising, taking out some of that equity that is built up in each of those properties, part of that £100,000 that has grown in equity in the property over the last 10 years, take that out and reinvest it into another property. And that's typically the cycle of investors. That's how landlords become portfolio landlords, and that's how they then look to grow their property portfolios in the UK. Very quickly, those 4 properties will become 6, 8, will double, and so on and so forth. And you look at remortgaging, negotiating new terms, more competitive interest rates as interest rates go down, as they're expected to do so, as Chris touched on as well. And then that's typically the cycle of an investor. Next slide, please. So just to highlight, we do have a Q&A box, so anything that comes up that I haven't answered, please feel free to pop it at the bottom, and then we'll answer at the end of the webinar. But some of the commonly asked questions that we get from our overseas clients is firstly, how much can I borrow? Probably one of the first questions I ever get asked. And the simple answer is, as overseas investors, it really does vary on a number of circumstances. It depends on if you've invested before, whether it be in Singapore, in the UK, or anywhere internationally, your income, your expenditure, and the property itself. So looking at the property, looking at the rental yield, looking at the value. But typically, as overseas investors and investors, particularly from Singapore, you can look to borrow between 65 to 75% of the property value, which means you need to put down a deposit of around 25 to 35%. Can I mortgage multiple investment properties from Singapore? Absolutely. So if you're looking at remortgaging a portfolio of properties, like we looked at in the previous slide, or perhaps you're looking at buying multiple properties at the same time, either in your personal name or through a company, we can absolutely do that. We're actually in the process of doing that now for a client in Saudi, and that certainly is an option available to you. With that, of course, if we're looking at a few properties, it's a slightly more bespoke solution, so we can approach some more specialist lenders and look to obtain some bespoke pricing as well. Can I get a mortgage if I do not have an income? Yes, you can. And that's because the property that you're going to be purchasing is going to be an investment property. It's going to be generating a passive rental income. So if you do not have an income or you don't have a fixed income, there are banks that are willing to lend to you and will assess the affordability solely on the rent that the property is generating. I have clients who are recently self-employed, as an example, so they don't have audited accounts for their businesses, or retired and don't have a pension or don't have a fixed pension that they're drawing. In those circumstances, we look at the rent that the property is generating, and then we're able to ascertain how much they're able to borrow. So that certainly is available to you. And what are the benefits of speaking to a mortgage broker? Quite simply, just to summarize, we've gone through that so far, is we manage that whole process for you so that you don't have to. As you've seen, interest rates are changing in the UK. With that, banks are changing their criteria, introducing new rates every couple of days, often setting hard deadlines for you to submit applications within a specific time frame. Also, as an overseas investor, you're having to do everything remotely from where you're based, and that can be quite challenging. By working with us, we will liaise with all of the parties involved. We will package the application for you. We will provide you with the list of documentation that you need and in advance. So we start the application 6 months before handover. And then once we've got that documentation, we, of course, by working closely with the banks, we know what they like to see and how they want the application to be presented. We will then package it in a way which ensures that it goes through as smoothly as possible. And then from there, we will liaise with all of the parties involved: the underwriters, the solicitors, the valuers, the developers, your estate agents, your solicitors later down the line, and then the property managers, whoever's going to be managing the property for you post completion, just so they have a time frame, so that once they know completion is nearing, you can start marketing the property for rental as well. Next slide, please. So to answer the previous question, how much can I borrow? We've put together a very summarized cash flow. Now, Chris and his team will go into a far more in-depth one, detailing your kind of cash projection over the next 5, 10, and 15 years. But this shows you in summary what a simplified cash flow looks like as an investor from Singapore. So based on a purchase price of £265,000, this was for a client of ours who was purchasing an investment property in Settle, which was a development in Birmingham that we were working on at the back end of last year and this year. So this was a one-bedroom apartment, and they wanted to borrow 75%, which means they put down a 25% deposit. That equated to a loan amount of £198,750. The interest rate on this was a 5-year fixed rate at 5.39%. That means that regardless of what happens in the markets for the next 5 years, the rate is fixed, and ultimately, as a result, the monthly repayments are also fixed. The monthly payments on this equate to £893 per month. Now, when we look at the column on the right-hand side, we look at all the costs associated. So the property is renting at £1,265 a month. That equates to a 6% per annum rental yield. When we take off the monthly service charges, letting and management fees, we are then left with a positive net cash of £133 a month, which equates to £1,598 per annum. Now, bear in mind, this is just year one of the rent. Every year on year, that rent is going to increase, and you can increase it in line with the market. At the same time, you know that for the next 5 years, your monthly payments for your mortgage are going to be £893. So firstly, your monthly cash flow is going to increase every year. The other benefit you have is that you're going to hold on to this property for the next 5, 10, or 15 years. With that, you will also be able to benefit from the capital appreciation of the property. And when we do come to remortgaging, which we'll look to do in 5 years' time, we can then at the same time negotiate a more competitive rate and capital raise to take out some of that equity that's built up in the property over that period of time, and then reinvest that again into another property, buying a second investment property. Again, repeating the model, having a passive rental income which is being looked after by the rent that is being collected. Next slide, please. Super. So I'm going to pass back over to Chris now, who's going to now walk you through the investment properties that we're going to be showcasing this afternoon. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, Ove. Yeah, so just going into a little bit of detail of understanding how to choose the right location and what makes a good investment location. So if we just go on to the next slide. So, you know, when we're looking at investing in any area, you don't want to invest in somewhere that's fully built up and there's not much happening there. You know, that's why we don't really deal with London. You know, the prices there are very expensive. The yields are low. The room for appreciation, the room for growth just isn't there. So that's why we focus on the regions, because there's so much happening there, whether it's regeneration, whether there's improved connectivity, you know, there's better jobs, you know, there's better rental demand, or whatever it may be. These are the factors that you need to take into consideration when you're looking at making or buying a property investment. So obviously we are here to help you do that. We've got our ear on the ground all the time. We know which locations are the best, and that's why we have developments in the locations that are primed for growth, which is ultimately what we want from our investment. So if we go on to the next slide. You know, we look at the locations that are, or the top investment hotspots, that they're all the regional cities. You know, Birmingham, Derby, Leeds, Manchester. The average property price is low. The average rental yield is high, and the 5-year price prediction is high. Okay, and that's because of all of these key factors or reasons that I mentioned in the previous slide. If you look at London, London is double the price or over double the price. The average yield is half of what it is in the regions, and the 5-year price prediction is again over half of what we expect from the region. So these are the locations that you should be focusing on, and you know, we can look at every individual location and understand what's happening there and why we're gonna see the appreciation and the return on investment that you want. Next slide, please. We look at it and at this, you know, we look at this graph. Realistically, what you want to do is be as far to the top left-hand corner as possible, where you've got that lower average property price, but a high average rental yield as well. So these locations that are circled are at the moment the best places in the UK to invest. So going on to our new project that we have, and I'll run through this quickly. It's a brand new project that we've had on. We've been marketing it for a few weeks now, and as I mentioned when I first started this webinar, it's one of the most exciting developments that us, Joseph Mews, have ever been involved in. It is in Birmingham, and I'm going to talk to you about why Birmingham is one of the best places to invest right now. But if people on this webinar don't know where Birmingham is or have never heard of it, it's in the Midlands. It's very well located. You can get to the north, to the south very, very quickly. It's quite close to London, and it's actually the UK's second largest city after London in terms of economic output, in terms of population. A lot of people think it's Manchester, but it's actually Birmingham. So if we go on to the next slide, we'll talk about the potential of Birmingham. So look, there's been a huge amount that's been happening over the past 10 years. There's been a 30-year big city plan that's been in place where they're going to be spending billions and billions of pounds regenerating the city centre, and they've already made a big step to doing that in the past 10 years. Birmingham as a city has completely changed in that time period, but it doesn't stop there. It's continuing to grow. There's still so many plans in place to turn Birmingham into one of the best cities in the world. Okay, and what we're seeing at the moment is there's very, very high demand. The population is growing exponentially at the moment, with 100,000 plus working professionals, a very large student population, and the rental demand is one of the strongest in the UK. It's got a low supply. It's what we were talking about earlier. Birmingham's got a very low supply of good quality housing, and that's why we're seeing very, very high demand, and that's why there are more and more developments coming forward. But now is a great time to invest in Birmingham because you've got that lower price point, and then you've got these high rental yields as well. But the room for capital appreciation is huge as well. So if we go on to the next slide, we need to understanding why Birmingham is a great place to invest. This is one of the most important slides, okay? So you need to look at what job opportunities there are, what companies are located within these locations. So Birmingham is fastly becoming a financially led city with the likes of Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, PwC, KPMG, HSBC have actually moved their headquarters from Canary Wharf into Birmingham city centre. So the fact that some of these biggest financial institutions are actually moving there and headquartered there is massive for the city of Birmingham. What does it mean? It means that there's more job opportunities, there's higher salaries, there's better working professionals that can pay higher rents, or you know, and do the things that we really need to see the growth that we want within Birmingham. The financial sector in the UK is the biggest sector in terms of economic output, in terms of the salaries, in terms of the competition for the jobs. It's the biggest sector. So to have all of these companies that are actually located there in Birmingham is massive, massive for the city. And it's only the starting point. You know, as the city grows, as the regeneration continues, more and more companies are going to move there. And the economy is going to grow exponentially again, which is what we want to see when it comes to property growth and property values as well. If we move on to the next slide, we can look at what's happened within Birmingham and what they're planning over the next 10, 20 years. As I've already mentioned, the big city plan, 30 years of regeneration. Birmingham is catching up to London in terms of what it offers. It's not as big, but in terms of what it offers, it's catching up in terms of its entertainment venues, in terms of its well, we've already talked about the jobs, in terms of its transport links, in terms of its restaurants and entertainment. It's got Michelin star restaurants, the bars, and everything that it offers is very similar to Birmingham. The shopping, the retail, it's all there. And this has all happened within the last 10 years. But one of the major things that's happening, which is a lot of you on this webinar might have heard of it, or you might not have, but is the delivery of HS2. HS2 is a new high-speed rail. It's an initiative that's been talked about for a long, long time, but nothing's actually happened. Originally, it was going to be a rail that was going to connect Manchester, Birmingham, and London in a very, very short space of time. But they've scrapped the Manchester plan, and now it's just Birmingham. But that's all got the go-ahead now. They're building a brand new station in Birmingham for it, and it's going to connect London and Birmingham within 40 minutes. So again, that's a game changer for somewhere like Birmingham. The fact that you're going to be able to connect two of the biggest cities in the UK within 40 minutes with one train line is a game changer. This is going to be delivered in 2029, so 4 years away. And again, it's like what we talked about earlier. It's understanding what's happening within these cities that are going to make property values grow. HS2 is one of those major things that's going to happen. And what we're going to see from the impact of HS2, you know, there's a big working from home culture in the UK. People that are living and working in London, they're not going to be doing that anymore. You know, living in London, it's one of the most expensive cities to live in the world in comparison to the salaries that are there, the average salaries. So the quality of living just isn't what it used to be. If you can actually commute to London from Birmingham, the UK's second city, where you've got lower rents, lower cost of living, but you've got that better quality of living, that's what we're going to see. We're already seeing a lot of people move out from London and moving into these regions because of what's happening, because of the opportunities there. But when you've got something like HS2 that's connecting these two cities and making them very commutable, it's going to change everything. So that's why Birmingham for us is one of the best hotspots to invest right now. And as I said, it's going to continue to grow with everything and the regeneration and the plans that are already there. So if we go on to the next slide, education as well. Look, our developments, we're reaching out to a certain type of tenant. Someone that is a director or is quite senior in one of these banks that are earning good money. Those are the types of developments that we work in. We don't target students. However, the student population is an important factor to take into consideration when looking at investing in any city. Birmingham has one of the highest student populations in the UK, 90,000 students, 49% graduate retention rate, which is crazy. That wouldn't happen 5 years ago. So what we're seeing is that more and more graduates are looking to stay in the city that they're getting educated in, and it's because of these job opportunities. They don't want to go to London anymore because it's competitive, it's expensive, the salaries aren't as good compared to the cost of living. So they're staying in the cities that they're getting educated in, and they're having that better quality of living. And these are going to be the tenants that are continuing to rent out your property for 5, 10, 15 years down the line. So that's super important to understand that. If we go on to the next slide, we're going to talk about the connectivity. It's one of the best connected cities in the UK. As I said, you can get to the north and the south very, very easily. It's got 3 major train stations. It's got an international airport that gets you all over the world. And it's obviously, we've got the introduction of HS2, the high-speed rail that's going to be delivered in 2029. So in terms of its connectivity, you can't beat it. And again, that's why it's proving to be one of the biggest and most powerful cities in the whole of Europe. So if we go on to the next slide, please. Just to get on to our new opportunity that we have here, it's called number 30 St. Paul's. As I've mentioned before, very, very excited about this one. If we go on to the next slide. So it's based on a place called St. Paul's Square, which is just north of the city centre. It's literally 2 minutes outside of the city centre. It's the last Georgian square within the city of Birmingham, and it's absolutely beautiful in terms of its buildings and what surrounds it. There's a lot of history, there's a lot of character, and this is the only residential building on that square. I went back there a few weeks ago to look at the development. The sun was shining. There were people out on the square. There were markets. There were picnics. There was live music. There was a real buzz about the place. And it's one of the only green parts within the city centre. So what we have here is a unique development. It's something that is unique to the city of Birmingham. It's a conversion. It's a boutique development, only 55 apartments. And what they're doing is they're keeping the history, the existing facade of the building, and they're refurbing and restoring the internals to make it more contemporary and a bit more modern as well. So you've got that kind of new and old style together, which is something that's pretty special and unique. It is off plan. It's due to be completed in Q1 2026. So it's under 12 months away. Starting price is £250,000. There's only a 20% deposit that's required. So all you need to do now is put down a 20% deposit after the legal process, which normally takes about 28 days. That's your apartment secured. And then you don't pay anything else until completion, which is Q1 2026. We're looking at really good yields here, 6.5% rental yields. And look, as I said, the developer that we're working with on this is incredible in terms of what they deliver. They're one of the best and biggest developers in Birmingham. And as I said, it's something that is incredibly unique to the city of Birmingham, and that's why we're going to get the tenant demand and the value and the appreciation that we want to see from this particular opportunity. It also has underground parking, which is just unheard of in a location like this. So every tenant will have a parking space, which in city centres in the UK is unheard of, unless you're paying a lot of money for them. So if we go and move on to the next slide, which is where we focus on the location. It is essentially known as the Mayfair of Birmingham. The reason for this is because of the properties that surround St. Paul's Square. They've got this same kind of character that we see in one of the nicest areas in London, which is Mayfair. But for a fraction of the price. So if we look at the location, so as I said, it's just north of it is pretty much in the center of the city. You're only a 2-minute walk away from Colmore Row, which is where all the main businesses are, where you've got the all the banks and Deutsche Bank and HSBC. It's only 2-minute walk away from there, and then everything else that you can see here is only 10-minute walking distance. All the transport links, all the stations, everything. The new HS2 station is literally going to be 5 minutes away as well. So in terms of its location, you can't beat it, because you do feel like you're outside of the city centre with the green space opposite you. It's incredibly quiet, it's peaceful. So you do feel like you're outside of that. You haven't got that city centre living, but you are essentially in the city centre. So yeah, it's a lovely location to be. It is notoriously known to be the best place to live in Birmingham. So if we move on to the next slide, please. We've got some photos. So what it is it's 2 buildings. You've got the one on the left, which is the kind of older style red brick, but lovely bay windows. And then you've got the newer style building on the right. It kind of goes back into a courtyard, which I think if we go onto the next slide, that you can see it goes into this courtyard, which is going to be kind of landscaped by the developer, which is going to be really nice. And then all the apartments kind of go back into this U shape. You get a lot of light in this square. It's really, really lovely. The developer's going to make it really nice. And then you can see where this tree is here. There's a spiral staircase that goes down into the underground car park. So you park your car, go straight up into the courtyard and straight into your apartment, which, you know, again, makes it incredibly private. Which is, as you know, I keep using that word unique, but I can't stress to you how unique this opportunity is in Birmingham city centre. So I think we've got some photos. We go next just to see what's going to be delivered. And then, yeah, if we keep going through, there's a church on Grade 2 literature church on St. Paul Square. And again, you know, this is again a great thing about it is that we know that nothing's going to get built on this square. Nothing's going to change around this square. It's going to keep that historic element. The buildings are going to stay the same. No developers are going to come in and they're going to build high rise. It's just not going to change. So that's, again, a great thing about this particular opportunity. And a little bit about the developer. I mentioned them previously. They're called Elevate Property Group. They are the biggest developer now in Birmingham. They don't just do they do new builds, they do conversions, they do multi-million-pound townhouses. They are incredible in terms of what they deliver. We've been working with them for a couple of years now, and yeah, no stone is left unturned. From the door handles to the taps to anything, the quality is incredible, and that's what you want from your investment. You want longevity. You want your property to look the same in 10 years' time than it is right now, and that's what you're going to get with Elevate. So you're in good hands with this one, and as I said, it's Elevate will even say that St. Paul's is one of the most exciting developments they've ever been involved in. So yeah, that's a little bit about our new opportunity. We did actually have a launch a few weeks ago on the square, where we invited a lot of our clients to officially launch the opportunity. Interest has been great. I think we've sold 60% in a few weeks, which is incredible. So if you are interested on this call, on this webinar, then please you know, reach out and we can discuss it in a bit more detail. We do also obviously have other opportunities as well around the UK, you know, from different price points, different developers, you know, whatever suits your needs or what your criteria or what you're looking to achieve. We can obviously have that conversation and put you in the right direction and point you in the right direction of what development is going to be best for you. Next slide, please. We do have a summer incentive. So if you are on this webinar and you do end up reserving with us, you get £1,000 towards your legal fees and also a £2,000 towards a furniture pack. So a good incentive there for you. And what does it take to be a Joseph Mews client? Realistically, you know, you need immediate access to £50,000 because that will cover your 20% deposit that you need after 28 days. We want you to be committed to the process and be sure that you want to do this with us. You know, you're open to ongoing consultations. you have a clear motivation and strategy of buying a property. We really do want you to be understand the process of it and be fully committed when you do finally commit. And then obviously adopt that kind of long-term growth focused approach, which we've discussed in this webinar before. So if you are one of those, if you tick these boxes, then we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have a conversation with you, and try and help you find your next investment. So next steps, please, reach out. If you click one of these boxes here, then that's telling us that you want a meeting, and we will reach out and try and book a meeting in with you one-to-one. So please let us know what you're looking to achieve. We will, either Sophie or I will reach out, get a meeting booked in, and we'll talk about the next steps. So I think now we'll just get to the Q&A. So we have got some questions. So thank you everyone who has asked questions. And look, there's still time to ask questions. So we are going to get through them now. But please, if you've got any questions now, please ask them, and we'll get to them. All right. So I will deal with the first question. You show you collaborate with those, Knight Frank, etc. How do you collaborate? Does it mean that you have access to their database, or what is available on the market? Good question. So essentially what that means is Knight Frank are one of the kind of biggest consultants, in the world, and they have a big team in the Midlands. So we have an exclusive relationship with them in the Midlands. So how that works is that they work with a developer. And as I said before, Knight Frank work with some of the best developers in the UK. And we will be their official sales and distribution arm overseas. Okay, so Joseph Mews are their exclusive partner that work with Knight Frank and work with those developers that Knight Frank work with. There's no one else overseas that work with them. So we've actually got a brand new opportunity with them that we've launched. We haven't actually launched yet. It's off market, but it's closer to the HS2 station. It's a cheaper price point than what we're looking at with St. Paul's. So it's a great development. So that's what that means, working with and collaborating with Knight Frank. Soph, I think you want to the next
that's
one?
for me. Do we need a UK bank account? Yes, most of the time with most banks, they do require you to have a UK bank account. If that is the case, some lenders may arrange that for you. If not, then there are routes that we can explore to help you in doing that and having that UK bank account set up. If you don't want to have a UK bank account, then there are also lenders that will accept the mortgage repayments being made from an overseas account. So if you prefer to make the payments from Singapore or from any other account internationally, that's also an option. I think I'll take the next one. So my daughter is working and living in London. We're putting down a down payment for her first house. Would it be cheaper to borrow from a local bank rather than financing it from Singapore? So just to be clear, when we say financing from Singapore, we mean how you can finance your investment property by living in Singapore. We would be using UK banks though. So we would be using banks in the UK, whoever's going to be the most competitive. We're not tied to any particular handful of banks or handful of lenders. We work with the whole market. We work with over 750 banks across the globe. But for a purchase in the UK, it will likely be a UK bank because it's going to be the most competitive from a pricing perspective, loan to value, just the overall offering is going to be far more competitive. So we would be using a UK bank for that.
I think I'll get the next one. You did not show any tax consequence. Please share it. Any tax or rental income, capital gains. Yeah. So, yeah, look, we can go through all of this in a bit more detail, but essentially, if you're buying your first investment, the tax that you need to take into consideration, which we go through it all. We do have cash flows like Sophia went through that show you all the tax that you need to pay immediately, which is, when you're buying property, it's stamp duty is the first bit of tax that you pay. If in terms of income tax, you being from Singapore and buying from Singapore, you will have a double taxation agreement with the UK. So the first £12,500 of income that you do get will be tax free. and then anything above that will be minimal 20%. So what we do is normally we advise if you don't have any other income in the UK and this is your first property purchase, we would advise you to buy in your own name, because you do get that £12,500 tax-free allowance. If you already have income or you own multiple properties and your income is quite high already, that's when we would put you in touch with someone where you would look to set up a limited company. By doing that, there are many tax benefits by doing that. So look, we work with tax advisors. We work with lots of different people that can advise you on the best way of buying property in the most tax efficient way. So again, it's another conversation to have in person. But as I said, we work with many people that can make this a tax efficient way of investing. What is the current stamp duty fees to be paid for foreign investors? So it's gone up. It went up after the budget to 7%. It does depend on the price of the property. So if you're buying anything over £500,000, the stamp duty does go up even more than the 7%. But at the moment, it's a standard rate of 7% for overseas investors. Is there any rental control in the UK? Any law or regulation governing how much rent you can raise? No. I'm not. I don't know if I fully understand this question, but no, it's not. In terms of rental control, I guess you're based on the amount of income that you get would be the percentage that you're kind of taxed based on that income. But again, I've spoken about how we can get around that, but there's no kind of real control over how much you can actually earn or you can get from your rent. Is Singapore property considered as a second property for stamp duties? So I mean, I'd say yes. If you
Yeah.
Go on.
Typically, I mean, it's worth speaking to a tax advisor, but yes, the stamp duty, that's one thing to touch on. So the stamp duty is dependent on lots of things. It depends on the usage of the property. It depends on if you own any other properties. But yes, it is based on, it's worth consulting with a tax advisor, but typically it would be based on your worldwide properties. Chris, do you want to take the next one?
Yeah, in some countries, US, you cannot raise rent more than 5%. Yeah, there's a duty of care to tenants and between landlords and tenants in the UK, but there's nothing in place at the moment where it can stop you from increasing rents to a certain point. I mean, obviously it's based on what's happening within that location, and if rents are going up quite considerably, then you have every right to increase the rent based on what's happening, comparatively to other renters around you. So no, there's nothing in terms of that which will stop you from increasing your rent to where you want it to be. Okay, that is it for now. Thank you very much for your questions, guys, and I hope you found the webinar insightful and educational, and thanks again, So, for coming on. I do appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And look, if anyone's requested a meeting, we will reach out and we can continue our conversations then.
Look forward to discussing further, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.